Hello everyone, this is Toby the Galactic Intuitive. How are you guys doing today? Today is August the 23rd. It is the new moon in Virgo day today, although we did talk about that yesterday. So I'm giving it away. In preparing to come on to talk to you guys today, I was asking the Inner Temple Oracle deck for a card for our theme, and this is the card that we received that came through, and it's connection and separation. This deck is unique in a number of ways, but one of the ways it's unique is that there are a group of cards that are representative of polarities, and this is one of those cards. So we have connection, and then we have separation. And so as I was looking at this card, I was hearing the message, the gold is in the neutrality. And we talked a little bit about neutrality yesterday, and neutrality and sovereignty being a place of neutrality as in a balance between light and shadow. And when I was hearing that message, I do also have awareness of the perspective and the connotation oftentimes that's rolled around about neutrality, and that being from a negative perspective. And the message then that I heard when I reflected on that momentarily was that that negative connotation was created, and it was created by those whose intention was to maintain the duality aspect, and also the more extremes, basically separation, because the more extreme whatever the belief is or the emotion is or the situation is, the more that the more extreme those are, the more separate the people experiencing them are. So by creating this this portrayal of neutrality as being something that represents a complete detachment, a lack of emotion in a negative way, right? And a lack of compassion, a lack of any caring or interest in understanding, detachment from the point of, detachment associated with a sense of avoidance, which is super interesting because when you think about it in those terms, then we recognize how so many things in our environment and in the media and that we're exposed to, I'm hearing, are grounded in the energy of, well, duality. I mean, we know that, but are grounded in the intention of maintaining duality by maintaining those extremes, by driving us further away from neutrality. So of course, we each have free will, and we have the ability to make our own choices and to be discerning about what we're interacting with and how we're then taking in the energies of what we're interacting with, and whether or not we are allowing it to move us further on towards one end of that scale or the other and away from neutrality. And it starts, it feels like, from that message I received, it starts with sometimes an underlying belief that neutrality is actually in the shadow and is something to let's see, what am I trying to say here? neutrality on a subject is, or yeah, let's just say on a subject, that neutrality around a subject, again, indicates a lack of compassion, a lack of understanding, a detachment from it, a lack of care and consideration, a lack of empathy, a lack of love, and even in some, I'm getting flashes of like political perspectives and political situations where if one speaks up from a place of neutrality, may be labeled as someone who is totally lacking compassion and actually grouped with the opposing side from that other person's perspective. I hope this is making sense, because this is an important point, and it's important for us to remember that neutrality isn't bad. I mean, I don't like to use those terms. So neutrality is when we look at neutrality from the perspective of being centered. And if we're looking at, let's say, oh my gosh, now here go the words again. A pendulum, let's just use a pendulum, for example. When it's in that place in the center, it is neutral. It's not swinging from one side to the other. You know, when we're looking at a balance point, the balance point is in the middle. That is the neutral point. So I think it's important for us to remember that version of the terminology and the meaning of neutrality, and to release ourselves from this, the definitions around neutrality as being negative, or what's the word I'm trying to think of? It's not detached, but it's detachment from a place of avoiding, and it's detachment from a place of a lack of compassion. When in fact, oftentimes the most compassionate energy we can be in is one of neutrality, because not only is that showing compassion for self because we're in our balanced, centered place, but it also is then creating the energetic space for the other to experience that situation or that event, or I'm hearing that question, not sure what that's in reference to, but experience that free from our influence, and being able to be in a space that allows the other to experience life without our influence or a frequency that might impede or create a sense of judgment, or even a sense of trying to direct them in one way or the other. I mean, that is the most compassionate and loving space we can create, right? Just allowing the other person to be as they are. And that's where neutrality, that is neutrality. And as the guide said to begin with, the gold is in neutrality. So that would be the middle. Connection versus separation. And actually, it wouldn't be, I said that wrong. It wouldn't be in the middle here if we weren't talking about connection and separation. Well, okay, I'm going to nitpick things. I'm not going to nitpick things tonight. Am I going to nitpick things? No, I'm not going to. Okay, yeah, I'm going to nitpick things. Okay, so neutrality would be in the center of this, because we can... there's as much, we talk a lot about connection, and we talk about unity, and we talk a lot about connection within self. There's also this aspect of this that is really asking for us to have an awareness of the value of the middle point between connection and separation as well, and to recognize the value of the bringing together the light and the shadow so we can operate from a balanced place. Sometimes connection, and we're talking about extreme polarities here, because sometimes with connection, that becomes codependency, right? So we weren't really talking about that initially. We were speaking about connection as in balance within oneself. But I think it was important to say that because, and this is where we brought this subject up yesterday when we talked about sovereignty being a place of neutrality between the place at the center of our light and our shadow, where they meet, in that neutral space where they meet. It's really important for us to continue to go back to that, because we are, I talk about a lot about light, I talk a lot about love, and there's a lot about that in this, out in the spiritual world and in places such as these where people are talking on these subjects. And yet at the same time, it is equally important for us to recognize our shadow, because if we're not able to do that, then we're bypassing, and it's going into false light territory, and that's not doing any of us any favors, for sure. And that's not proceeding us along our path, and that's not moving us towards ascension. We can't move towards ascension without doing the shadow work and without integrating our shadow. It just doesn't happen. There are we can play still in the higher dimensions and experience things there. But in order for us to be able to fully move into 5D in an embodied state, we have to have the integration of the light and the shadow. So, yeah, the shadow is not something to, the shadow within each of us is of value. And in fact, many of our greatest gifts lie there. So, all right, well, I wasn't expecting our little talk today to turn in that direction, but that's okay. That's an important, very important thing to keep in mind. And doing the shadow work is the hardest part of this spiritual journey. It is, it's incredibly challenging. It's incredibly challenging to look within the deepest, darkest places within ourselves, and to look with honest eyes upon what's there, and then to sit down at the table with our shadow and have the conversations to really get to know our shadow, and then to recognize when the shadow is speaking up, maybe at not the most appropriate times, and to recognize when we have relied upon that shadow for our own safety and security. And once we get to that place, then we're able to maintain or create that safety and security from the light. But we've recognized the shadow, and we understand why different behaviors and actions are coming up, and this is how they overlap. This is where the integration comes from. It's not from pretending it doesn't exist and ignoring it. It's recognizing when it's rising up and why it's rising up, and what's that saying about our emotional state at that time, or something about us that is within our experience and our history that may be always a part of our experience as we go forward, but now we've got this recognition that it's there and that the shadow will come up around that subject, and then we can approach it differently from this higher level of awareness. I hope that made sense. I hope that made sense. All right, I wanted to pull another card for you guys, but I'm not sure which deck. Let me see. Okay. Ooh, creaky chair. All right, we're going to do the Healing Spirits Oracle. Since we were talking about shadow work. Kind of, again, an unexpected subject for today, but if you've been here for any time, you know that happens a lot. It's quite all right. There's wisdom in that, right? We don't always have to plan for everything. And as a matter of fact, when we always are planning for everything, then we're not leaving any room for possibilities and potentials, and we're not leaving in much room for our guides and the universe to work on our behalf. So, little side note there. All right. Let's see, what do we have for the healing? Oh, that was quick. Well, some of y'all must be dealing with some shadow work, because we have, this is a beautiful card. Your path may be bumpy, but this will alter soon. Gosh, isn't that beautiful? That is gorgeous. Actually, right here, it looks like a little angel or fairy rising out of the wave. Oh, the timer just said 17:17. So, your path may be bumpy, but this will alter soon. All right. Is there anything we need to say about that? No, I think that was kind of it's adding into what we were talking about shadow work, and that although that doing that work is very challenging, it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding. And so you might be tossed about a little bit by the waves, but keep looking ahead, and yeah, it'll calm soon. It will calm soon. I'm hearing change is a constant, so that is in all things. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it there. I hope you guys have, I can't talk. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day. And thank you so much for being here. As always, I appreciate your presence and your energy and your time and your attention. And I will be back tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you.